Welcome to Daniel chapter 10. Daniel encounters a man. Now, of course, a man is in inverted commas or quotation marks because it's not really a man at all. It's an angel. Daniel is having supernatural dreams and visitations in his latter years. This one is rather important. It has to do with a partial fast that Daniel conducted. Because he's older, he can't do the rigorous water and liquid fast. So there's certain things he had in his diet, included and excluded. It lasted for 3 weeks. At the end of the 3 weeks, the archangel appears. And apparently the message is, hey, Daniel, from the first day, even the first moment that you began to seek God diligently, I was on my way. But en route between heaven and you here in Babylon, I had to deal with the prince of Persia. Principalities and powers are very real, and even though we can't see them, it doesn't make them any less real or potent. On the contrary, the things that are unseen are eternal, and the things that are seen are temporal, as the Apostle Paul tells us in the New Testament. So he has this very potent visitation, and it leaves him utterly breathless. What he's going to be told are some things that have to do with the Medo-Persian Empire, which he was part of, and the coming Hellenistic Empire, which still was in the future. Let me give you a very quick thumbnail history lesson. Medo-Persia had 127 counties, satraps, regions. We learned this in the book of Esther. So it was very expansive. It went to the borders of India on the east, throughout westward, the whole of the Middle East, and into Africa all the way to Ethiopia. However, after a 200-year reign, the Medo-Persian Empire was conquered by a young Macedonian that we know as Alexander the Great. This is in the 4th century BC. Alexander virtually, I think he was 20 years old when he started his conquests, and he was 32 or 33 when he died in Babylon, after having basically taken over the whole of the Persian Empire. But Alexander had a mission. He wanted to practice what we now know as Hellenization. Helen is not a woman. Hellenization is talking about all things Greek. He wanted the captured realm that he now had under his control to think, speak, and act Greek. This is Hellenization. And he was incredibly effective despite the fact that he died at a young age. In fact, that's why our New Testament is written in Koine Greek. That's why our creeds are in Greek. That's why systematic theology has Greek-derived names. You see, there is a Hebrew mindset which is very practical and very concrete. And then there's the Greek mindset that is more abstract and philosophizing. And it's interesting that Paul's epistles start out theological, that's the Greek side, and then they end up being very practical at the end of the epistle, that's the Hebraic side. Both of these would be like headwinds over the land of Israel in the times that were ahead. So what are some of the things we can learn from Daniel's experience? Oh, by the way, the angel says, on my way back home, I'll have to deal with the prince of Persia. Could it be that the situation we now face with modern Iran has to do with the prince of Persia from antiquity? After all, these entities don't die out. They're still around. But amazingly, Iran, which has a long imperial history of education, of tolerance, of high culture, of inclusivity, of multiculturalism, it did have its dark periods as well. And what we're seeing today could very well be one of them. But it could do with the Prince of Persia and all things dealing with that. But also I want to highlight the importance of prevailing prayer. Daniel didn't stop praying until he was visited by the angel. There's a lesson for us. Don't succumb to fatigue or fatalism or fear or falsehood, when seeking God for the situation in the nation or in the world, persist in prayer. It says in 1 Thessalonians 5:17 to pray without ceasing. That is a good thing. And Jude 20 is a good one. Building yourselves up in your most holy faith, praying in the Holy Spirit. We would do well to do that. That's how we build strength and stamina. Because remember, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. We want to conquer weak flesh through the cross of Christ and through prevailing spirit-filled prayer. So welcome to Daniel chapter 10. Daniel encounters a man, an archangel, the prince